Yours on?
Yeah, his is on.
Bro, I can't see. Well, it's whatever. I don't care. Let's just do this.
Good evening. You are listening to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 Dean Radio. I'm your host, Adam Wright, along with co-hosts. Let me start that over.
Sorry. I meant to turn off my mic.
All right. Good evening. You are listening to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 Dean Radio. I'm your host, Adam Wright, along with co-hosts Justin Tucker and CJ Medeiros. So we are on to our last episode right before Thanksgiving. We'll get you some content for that. But in the meantime, we do have an episode, and we do have a lot planned for you guys tonight, mainly AFC leading, where we have the AFC East leading Patriots, the wide open AFC playoff race. We have the game of the week and the fan box segment as always. But first, let's talk about the Titans, who just lost in embarrassing fashion. So the Tennessee Titans lost to the Texans 22-13. And so the Titans have won 6 games in a row prior to this, but don't let that fool you. They've lost Derrick Henry for the regular season, who was an MVP candidate. We have Julio Jones, who was their offseason acquisition, a wide receiver who just went to IR. And A.J. Brown is all banged up. So they are in first, and they do have the first seed in the AFC, but do you guys see any hope that they hang in there and at the top of the AFC here?
I'm not sure they're going to hang on to the first seed in the AFC, but I do think they might be a wild card team. After the way the Colts have become resurgent and dominating the way they are dominating at this point in time, I don't think they'll be, let's just say, like the 4th seed. I don't think the Titans will be the 4th seed if the Colts continue the way they are. And if everybody on the Titans IR continues to stay like that and can't get healthy, I do see this team dropping a few of their games to get out of the 1st seed. So I don't think they'll stay atop of the AFC, but I do think they'll be able to somehow, some way make it into the wild card part. But they need to get healthy immediately, if not sooner, because if they don't, they will get bounced out in the 1st round, and it could be by anybody: the Patriots, us, the Bills. So that's what I think.
Yeah, good thought. So I have here the remainder of the Titans' schedule, and I wouldn't call it too hard, but it's not going to be easy. So right off the bat, they're playing the 5-game win streak Patriots. Then they have the Jags, which is kind of a slow pitch. Then you have the Steelers, who are the epitome of hot and cold. Then you have the Niners, who are also very hot and cold. You have Miami, who I just don't know what to think of them anymore. And then you have the Texans, which doesn't sound terrible, but they did kind of just get thumped by them. So honestly, I feel like they could definitely lose 3 to 4 games in that stretch, but I could definitely see them winning like 4 or 5. So honestly, I just don't think of this Titans team. But make no mistake, Ryan Tannehill has not looked like himself without King Henry. Dare I say King Henry is kind of the focal point of that offense? Yeah, shocking, I know. But without Julio, they just have to sign old man Golden Tate and a banged up A.J. Brown. It's not looking very good. And do I think that they'll hang on to the 1 seed? Honestly, unless some rando steps up, no, I don't think that. And I can envision, like I said, I can envision them losing to New England. I can see them losing to Pittsburgh. I can see them losing to the Niners. Heck, I can see them losing to the Texans again because, those divisional games always play close. So long story short, no, I do not expect them to hang on to the 1 seed. I would be shocked if they did. And even if they did, they're going to be without Derrick Henry. So I don't know how long they can keep this up. Just my thoughts.
So the simple answer is they're not going to hang on at the top of the AFC. Can they get maybe the 3 or 4 seed? That's possible, considering they have the Dolphins and Texans. Well, They already just lost to the Texans. So, and the Jaguars, with the state of their offense, no game really anymore is a slam dunk for them, as talented as they were going into this year. If they were healthy, then I would say most of these games they would win. But they just don't have anybody healthy anymore. Julio Jones, even when he was healthy, wasn't himself. AJ Brown is banged up now, who's been probably their only bright spot when he was healthy. And not to mention they lost Derrick Henry for the regular season at the very least. They're just not going to. I just don't see it. They're just not going to keep it up. And honestly, the Colts are probably going to pass them for the division lead with the way they're going.
The problem with the Colts is they already have 5 losses. I'm not sure I can see Tennessee losing enough for them to get it. They would have to win the tiebreaker.
I can see them doing it. They started off. I've mentioned this so many times so far this season. Maybe much more off camera, but the Indianapolis Colts, they started off the season unhealthy, and they had a new quarterback leading the show. They took some time to gel. They started 1-4. Since then, 5-1. And the only game they lost was a near loss. They probably would have won. They probably could have won that game against the Titans.
Yeah.
So besides that, honestly, the Colts are red hot, and I don't see them losing many games down the stretch.
And they should have beat Baltimore until Lamar Jackson said, "Not today."
Exactly my point.
Yeah, they're a good team. It's just a matter of will their first 5 games be the reason they be held back to the wild card spot instead of hosting a playoff game, which is the only thing I'm concerned about. Depending on how they do against the Steelers and the Patriots and a couple of other teams, then maybe I could see Tennessee holding on to a 3 or 4 spot. But I need to see them against the Patriots first because the Patriots are playing pretty good right now, and they are the 3 seed.
The Patriots are red hot. And so you had a thought, CJ?
Yeah, I do. So I have here the remainder of Indy's schedule. And this is not easy. So next they have to play Tampa, then Houston, which, for Indy, they play like a smart defensive-led ground game kind of football, which, shouldn't be too bad for the Texans. And then, like you said, they play the red-hot Patriots. Then they play the Cardinals. Then they play the Raiders, who can drop 30 at any given moment. That's just how they've been this season. And then they play the Jags. So out of their remaining 6 games, there are 4 very losable games for them. And look, like I said, the Colts are 6-5, but I think it's kind of like what Justin said. Are their first 5 games going to be the reason why they don't go to the playoffs, or if they do, or why they're just the wild card?
The Titans, do you think the Titans could miss the playoffs?
It's very possible, but they've already won 8 games. They would need an epic collapse. And like I said, they do have some interesting matchups, like I said, with Miami, the Texans again, and the Jags. So, I know the divisional games usually play close, but I feel like they've got themselves up a cushion to the point where they shouldn't miss the playoffs, but I could be wrong.
I don't see them missing it. They have 8 wins at this point. I don't think they'll lose the remaining of their games to go 8-9. No. I think they're too well coached to go I think at worst they'll be either 9-8 or 10-7. They're getting 10 wins.
Well, this Titans team does need to start turning things around with the New England Patriots, who are red hot, and to be honest, not a chance. But that will that will segue into our next segment, which is about your AFC East leading Patriots. We're going to talk about them next. Coming up, you're listening to the Fumblerooski podcast. You are listening to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 Dean Radio. I'm Adam Wright with Justin Tucker and CJ Medeiros. We just talked about the Titans, and now we're going to talk about their next opponent, which is the New England Patriots. And because the Buffalo Bills lost in an absolute massacre to the rising Indianapolis Colts, who are now 6-5 now?
Yep.
And they now have coming up the Tennessee Titans. And after that, they'll be playing at Buffalo. Then they have a bye. Then they have at Indianapolis. Then against Buffalo again. Against the Jaguars and at Miami. So where do you see the Patriots ending up in the hierarchy, if you will, which is the AFC?
CJ, you could take this one.
Oh, I thank you. This is definitely the cop-out answer. I don't know. They've got a very tough remaining schedule, and I feel like this is going to be telling, like, I'm not going to say if they make the playoffs, but this is going to be, like, a very telling time to see what they're made of. Now, despite the fact, these are hard games, there's no game there, even at Buffalo and at Indy, that I would call unwinnable. They're not favorable, but they're within reach, if you know what I mean. The only game that I would expect that I would probably place money on them winning is Jacksonville in New England. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't even say that Miami, would probably give them a hard time because, they never play well in Miami. It's just a mental thing they got. But the Titans are beatable without Derrick Henry and Julio. The Bills have no pass rush or ground game. Then the Colts, their offense is Jonathan Taylor. If you can even maybe slightly slow down Jonathan Taylor, I know that's a tall order, but if you can probably stifle the Colts. So the games against Buffalo, I think, are going to be obviously the deciding factors for what they do, or how far New England goes. But I would say even if you win one game against Buffalo, if you split the series, you should be fine. And I expect New England to make the playoffs. I don't know where they're finished, but I would say that they're probably going to the playoffs.
Yeah, there's no doubt that they're making the playoffs. The problem is it's the Patriots. So I don't know where to put them right now. Honestly, I could see them as the first seed because of how wacky the AFC is this year. But I could also see them in the fourth seed because of their remaining schedule. The Colts is a tough one to take right now because they're so hot and Jonathan Taylor looks unstoppable at this moment in time. So that's might be a little bit of a problem. But outside of I think they can win some games and be a threat for the first seed in the AFC. I think they'll finish with a top 3 record because I believe the AFC South will finish in 4th. And so they will have a home playoff game, and depending on how everybody else does, because it is kind of any given Sunday with the AFC right now, they could have another playoff game. So they'll probably finish within the divisional round, and I can't believe I'm saying this, they could make it to the AFC Championship game. They could. But then they would get bounced out by the Ravens. But they could make it to the AFC Championship game. That's the ceiling I see for them.
That's fair.
So I'm going to break down this upcoming schedule very simply for you guys. So these next 4 games that they have are it's probably going to be the toughest stretch that they face all season. So what they have is Tennessee, Buffalo, Indianapolis, and then Buffalo again. So what they need to do is they need to win one of the games between Tennessee and Indianapolis, at least one of those games. And then they need to beat Buffalo. They need to beat Buffalo in at least one of those two games. Go at least 2-2, and then you beat Jacksonville and you beat Miami. I'm sorry, even if it's in Miami, I still don't. That team is just not good right now. And
Stop it. I already learned my lesson. Don't do that.
I don't see it. I'm sorry, I don't see it. I'll admit that I'm wrong when it happens. But
okay,
here's what we have. Tennessee, I'm sorry, maybe unpopular opinion. I think that game is a slam dunk right now, especially with the state of that offense. No Derrick Henry, no Julio Jones, and possibly no AJ Brown. And even if he does play, he's going to be banged up. And it just turns, without any weapons that Ryan Tannehill has, it basically turns him into the Ryan Tannehill of old back in Miami. And Bill Belichick knows that old Ryan Tannehill all too well. And it's going to be at home. Yeah. In Miami. And those were some not bad teams. He actually had some targets. Now he doesn't. So it's just plain old Tennessee. So I really think they're going to win that game, and I think they should be able to win at least one of the games against Buffalo. I'm not going to put money on it. However, I don't think they're beating Indianapolis. That team is stacked, honestly, and they're red hot right now. They're not going to beat them. However, I do see an 11-6 record and a 2 or 3 seed finish in the AFC.
Okay, that's fair.
It's fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
Not going fence above the Ravens, but
who do you think? So, who do you think is better than them?
Than the Ravens?
Than the Patriots?
Well, the Ravens won. I want to say the Bills, but they haven't proven anything this year. Like, I thought this year the Bills would be more assertive, more dominant with their wins. No. They lost to Tennessee, and then they lost the Jacksonville Jaguars, which was abysmal. Now they just lost the Colts. I mean, it should be the Bills, but they're not better than the Patriots, who are playing better than the Bills. That's just the way it is. I believe if the Patriots face the Bills right now, the Patriots will win, because I'm not sure what to make of Josh Allen right now. He was supposed to be an MVP candidate, but he's playing like a bum. The Colts, that is outside of the Ravens, maybe the Colts right now could beat the Patriots.
All right. Well, we will get into the rest of the AFC later on in the show, but first we have our game of the week, which is basically Sunday's best from the Sunday slate of games. So we'll get to that. Up next, you're listening to the Fumblerooski podcast. This is the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 Dean Radio. I'm Adam Wright with Justin Tucker and CJ Medeiros. We've been talking a lot of AFC today, and we have more AFC with our game of the week. So Week 11 Sunday's best is the Chargers versus the Steelers on some Sunday night football action, and this was a good one. So in this game, it was generally close at first. Chargers still had control, basically. But the Chargers eventually really pulled away later on in the game, and as early on in the fourth quarter, LA had a 27-10 lead. From there, with the help of a blocked punt and an interception for the Steelers, they managed to outscore the Chargers 27-7 to eventually take a 37-34 lead with 3.5 minutes left. Mm-hmm. And then the Chargers answered basically immediately when Justin Herbert connected with Mike Williams with a 53-yard touchdown pass to Mike Williams, and they took the lead right back. The Chargers ultimately would win the game 41-37. So guys, thoughts on this game?
Well. Oh man, I just feel so bad for the Steelers. So far back in the division, not much helping, not much going for them. They're on a 2-game losing streak. Just lost to Detroit. Oh, I'm sorry, they tied with Detroit. That's even worse. And then they just lost to the Chargers. You just hate to see it from a good football team like that. Oh man, Justin Herbert was playing like a stud. I'm pissed that I didn't start him in fantasy because I thought Ryan Tannehill would do something against the Texans. I was wrong. I thought the Steelers' defense was actually going to be more healthy than it was on Sunday night. I was wrong. Justin Herbert had a field day against the Steelers, and I lost out in fantasy because of that. So bad on me, but still, I'm happy as a Ravens fan because we just took another huge step in the right direction with our division because we won. Cincinnati's right behind us, but other than that, the Steelers lost, and that's always a good thing to hear about.
You know what my takeaway from this game is?
What is it?
I don't care that the Steelers technically have a record above 500. They're 5-4-1. They suck. The Steelers suck. Ben Roethlisberger is rickety and old. His arm is shot, and I would put money on him retiring at the end of this season. The only bright spots on this offense are Pat Freiermuth when he decides to show up, and another rookie, Najee Harris. Their defense is very hit and miss. TJ Watt is hampered with injuries. Their defensive backfield isn't what it was. It's just, I don't know what to think of the Steelers. They should be better than their record, I guess, but it's not going to happen. I don't even see them making the playoffs. Strictly because Big Ben, like I said, is rickety and old. Like, he's not going to lead you anywhere. And you're working poor Najee Harris to death. And Juju's done for the year. And who are your options? Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool? I mean, they sound nice, but they're not going to win you a Super Bowl. Now, I don't even know if they'd win you a playoff game. It's just, if by some miracle the Steelers sneak into the playoffs, I expect them to be one and done. It's just, I have no expectations for the Steelers. I really don't. But the Chargers, on the other hand, at 6-4, this Justin Herbert man can play.
Yes.
That's all there is to it. I love his game. The Chargers offense is deadly. And when they go to the playoffs, I feel like they could surprise some people. Maybe they could get hot and go on a run. Just another reason why the AFC is up for grabs, unless you're Pittsburgh.
So what this game really showed was that LA really does have a lot of talent, and it really just shows their potential on what they can do, with Justin Herbert having 472 total yards and Austin Eckler getting, 116 total yards with 4 touchdowns. And then on the other hand, in the receiving game, Keenan Allen has 112 yards. Mike Williams had 97 yards, including that 53-yard touchdown to take the lead. I mean, they have talent all over the field, and they're only 6-4, 3-3 at home. It just shows that this team has so much potential, but they've been underachieving this season. And really, they've been struggling as of late because I believe they had a 4-1 start to the season. It looked like they were going to be the team to beat in the AFC, and then they just have fallen apart. So I really don't know what to think of them. A lot of potential, basically underachieving. As for the Steelers, I didn't have any expectations going into this year, but I've got to say I'm pretty impressed that this team has been able to remain in the hunt technically so far this season, being 5-4-1, nearly won this game and would have been 6-3-1. Think about it that way. If the Pittsburgh Steelers at 6-3-1, and honestly, I think you don't give them enough credit in the receiving game with 3 different receivers who can all on any given Sunday give you 100 yards. Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster. Eric Ebron is a solid tight end. They have this rookie Najee Harris, but I just think the rest of their offense is carrying old Ben Roethlisberger, and they definitely need to move on from him. I mean, it's just plain and simple. But this was a classic AFC showdown, and I couldn't have been more impressed with the outcome.
Yeah, I'm happy with the outcome. As the only thing I'm gonna say about the Steelers is Big Ben needs to retire sooner rather than later. They need to get an old lineman. I don't care if it's in the first or second round, but they need to draft a quarterback and an offensive lineman to protect Najee Harris and the quarterback, because they need to get more movement on the run game. No more TikToks for Juju or Chase. But stop it. And that defense needs to, I don't know how they're going to keep it together. That defense needs to stay healthy, because if they do, they'll be solid for years to come.
Absolutely. So up next, we're going to talk a little bit about the AFC, basically the basic landscape of it, because we've talked about it a lot in the early going of this show in the first half. So we'll go over it a little bit more. So we'll have that next. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Fumblerooski podcast. This is the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 Dean Radio. I'm Adam Wright, Justin Tucker, and CJ Medeiros. This is a heavy AFC episode this week. And so I've just figured we'd talk about a little bit of it, the playoff picture as a whole. So right now, I'll give you sort of the standings. It's Tennessee with the 1 seed, as we discussed earlier. They're 8-3, followed by Baltimore at 7-3 with the 2 seed. The 3 seed is New England at 7-4, who have climbed a ton in the past couple of weeks. So is Kansas City, who has managed to, after a 3-4 start, win a few games, and they are 7-4 at the 4 seed. Cincinnati is in the 5 seed at 6-4. The Chargers at the 6 seed at 6-4 as well. The Bills with the last playoff spot at the 7 seed. They are 6-4 as well. And in the hunt is Pittsburgh, Indianapolis, and Cleveland. Pittsburgh is 5-4-1. Indianapolis is 6-5, and Cleveland 6-5. Those three are currently in the hunt and are actually very much in it. But so guys, how do we see the AFC shaping up over the final stretch of the season?
Stay with me now. The Ravens will be the 1 seed as usual. The Patriots will be the 2 seed, I believe. The West, it's either going to be the Chargers or the Chiefs. I'm not completely sold on the Chiefs right now. That's why I'm saying the Chargers could be in play. That's where I see it. In the 4th seed, I truly believe it will be the Colts. I'm just a little iffy about their schedule and whether or not Tennessee can hold on. The wild card team, it can switch out the Chargers and the Chiefs and switch out the Titans and the Colts, and one more. Who would be the it might be the Bills that I'm forgetting about right now. Outside of that's the way I see it shaping up. I think the Bills are going to be the 5th, and the other 2 of the conference teams are going to be, of the divisional teams, are going to be 6 and 7. Either the Chiefs and Chargers or the Titans and Colts. That's how I see it shaping up.
Well then, I'm not going to get into seeding, but I'm going to tell you who's going to win each division. Okay, kids, are we ready for some bold predictions? because they're probably going to be wrong. The AFC North, I'm going with the Browns. No, I'm just kidding, Justin. I'm going with the Ravens. I'm just trying to get a rise out of you, buddy. AFC East. Now, this is an interesting one. Maybe just because I'm biased. I'm going with New England by a little, strictly because Josh Allen and the Bills have not impressed me whatsoever. The AFC West, I think that the Chiefs barely eke out, their ticket to the playoffs. I feel like the Chargers never going to be close, but Chiefs can just throw some random BS on the field in the form of trick plays and just win. And for the AFC South, I'm going with not the Titans, the Colts, strictly, because Jonathan Taylor in that offense, and the Titans don't have Derrick Henry. So now we have 3 wild card spots, which I think will go to the Buffalo Bills, the LA Chargers, and I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns.
Okay.
I don't see the Steelers making it in. I don't think the Bengals can keep it up either. The Titans, now they're one you can make a convincing argument for. After all, they do have 8 wins, but I'm going to backtrack here and say that, well, it's kind of a stretch to see them missing the playoffs. I don't count it out. I really don't.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, like I said, it's not like I wouldn't call their final schedule a cakewalk because there's a bunch of trap games there. But after you lose to the Texans, I really don't have that much confidence. So I'm going to rescind any previous compliments that I said about the Titans, which I'm pretty sure I might not have. And I'm going with, like I said, I think the Colts are going to win that division. So just to reiterate, I'm not sure about seeding, but the Ravens, Patriots, Chiefs, and Colts are all going to win their divisions. And the playoffs will be the Chargers, the Browns, and the Bills.
Okay. Adam?
So for me, the only team out of the top half of this playoff picture that I see really dropping is Tennessee. I think in these next few weeks they're going to absolutely dip, and it's going to be ugly. Starting this week when they lose, it already started when they lost to the Texans. They're not beating New England. I'm sorry, they're not beating New England.
Cocky.
I just don't think they're.
Adam, don't jinx
They're not
it.
beating New. All right, I'll knock on wood here.
Okay, I feel safe now.
I'll say it in a non-jinxing way. I find the Tennessee Titans to have a very tough time with beating New England. There you go. How's that?
There. This pleases me.
That's the best way I could do without saying it's going to happen. But anyways, Kansas City, I think they're starting to hit their stride after an early season slump. I told you that Super Bowl hangover is real, especially losing the Super Bowl. Winning it, that doesn't give you much of a hangover. Usually the team is right back in it after. But when you lose it, oh boy, is that devastating. But I think if there's anybody who's going to overcome that, it's Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. They have a good team around them, and I don't see them being as mediocre as they have been early on in the season. Outside of that, the bottom half is a huge toss-up. I mean, you could see any one of these teams making it, and you could see any one of these teams missing. Cincinnati, I don't think they're going to be the 5 seed, but they could certainly make it. They have Jamar Chase, who has been awesome so far, and don't forget the other 2 receivers who are behind them, in Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins. And they also have, what is his name? CJ Uzoma.
He's on the tight end.
Yeah, he's a great tight end for that. Maybe not great, but he's a very good tight end for them. And don't forget Joe Mixon. Joe Burrow looks like he's the real deal. They may not make the playoffs, but I mean, I could see them making it. The Chargers I think they'll be in it. The Bills will be in it. Pittsburgh, Indianapolis will be in it. And I don't know about Cleveland at this point, man. I don't think Cleveland's making it. Pittsburgh and Cleveland are the only ones where I'm like, man, I don't know. So I think the teams where they have the least chance of making the playoffs are Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, and Cleveland. Everyone else, I think they have a very good chance of making it.
Mm-hmm.
But it has been a very complex, to say the least, very complicated AFC landscape, if you will. But anyways, we are going to move on to the Fumblerooski fan box coming up next. That is our last segment. So don't go anywhere. We want to hear from you guys about the AFC. Stay tuned. This is the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 Dean Radio. Adam Wright, Justin Tucker, CJ Medeiros. I don't know how I got Christian. I think I was reading it off the bottom of your screen there. I saw Chris. Yeah, Christopher, not Chris. But anyways, we are reaching the end of our show, which means we are onto our Fumblerooski fan box so that we get to hear from you guys. So we will post a question box every Monday, and you can respond with hot takes, questions, and more. And we will discuss it and give you a shout out on our podcast. Respond to next week's fan box question to be featured on our show. Now, so the question of the week was, who is the best team in the AFC? So we've been able to go over the AFC for basically the entire show, game of the week included. So first off, Patrick Williver, who has responded to just about every fan box question we've asked this week, or since it began, and he said must be the Chiefs because the Cowboys are the best in the NFC. So for those of you,
get off it.
That's cap.
So for those of you who have been listening to our shows ever since the fan box began, this kid has been answering our questions every week. And if you haven't caught on yet, he is a diehard Cowboys fan, and it makes sense that he made it about an NFC team and his Cowboys. But anyways, I mean, the Chiefs are a prime candidate to be up there in the number one seed. I really do.
They are there right now.
I think they are. They could get there. I honestly think they're on paper they're the best team in the AFC. Grayson Mortimer said, despite the bad loss, it's still Tennessee.
No,
I gotta disagree there.
No.
I can't backtrack on me completely dumping all over Tennessee all episode and then be like, yeah, it could be Tennessee. I mean,
now they're just
miracles
too hurt.
happen.
It's not their fault, just injuries.
Yeah.
Miracles happen, but I don't see it. They're going to fall apart coming up. It's going to be an ugly stretch for them. But anyways, Nick Norman said the entire AFC are, and in all caps, frauds. Every team has a bad loss.
Well, just because you have a bad loss doesn't make you a fraud. Ever heard of the term any given Sunday?
Yeah.
Exactly.
It doesn't. Yeah, but we all have bad losses, but I wouldn't say we're frauds. It's just one loss doesn't match the others.
Upsets happen. And I mean, I asked him that. I was like, well, who is the best fraud out of all these? I didn't ask who's for real in the AFC. They could all be frauds, but who's the best fraud? If they're all frauds, which one's the best one? And I mean, I guess he doesn't want to make a choice. He is a Steelers fan, so it makes sense that he's a little salty because everybody sucks.
I can name a fraud team right now.
I have a couple, one or two on one in particular that plays in Pennsylvania. That's off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
I still can't believe the Steelers are in the playoff race right now.
I can
like
believe
you.
Well, they aren't right now, but flash forward a few weeks. Hold on. What's their remaining schedule? Do we know?
I could look at it right now.
Actually, you know what? I'm Googling it.
I'm at it. I found it. All right. So up next they have the Bengals. That's a loss. They have the Ravens. That's a loss. They have the Vikings. That's a loss. They have the Titans. I think they could win that game. Chiefs. That's a loss. The Browns. That's a toss-up. Ravens. That's a loss. Yeah, so
Can somebody say fraud?
Some of them are rivalry games, so we don't know how they'll end up. Just like Tennessee and the Texans, that's a rivalry game.
All right, fair enough.
They faced the Ravens twice. Maybe they could beat them.
I can
You
see
said it's a
it.
rivalry game, so it could happen. Especially in that crazy division.
Lamar.
Especially in that crazy division, it feels like they always play. All those teams play up to their competition, especially in that division. I don't know what they have against each other, but they hate each other.
We don't like each other. It's always been that way.
Yeah.
We hate everybody in our division. We don't play favorites.
Maybe the most competitive division in all of football in the past few years. It feels like it's always close.
And everybody's in the playoff picture right now.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
the
Ravens and Bengals are actually, if it ended today, it would be in the playoffs, and the Browns and the Steelers are in the hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Anyways, we are reaching the end of our show. We do want to wish you guys a happy Thanksgiving. We will be sure to give you guys plenty of content for Thanksgiving Day football, including some food content, because that is, of course, important, given that this is a holiday basically almost about food. I mean, obviously, you want to be thankful, but the main selling point is that grub, food and football. One of my favorite holidays, man. So before we end, what are we doing for Thanksgiving? What are some of our traditions?
Watching football,
eating food. Like I just said, food and football. Also, before we go, there's something I'd like to bring up. Adam, maybe you've heard of this, being a Pats fan. Justin, you probably might have heard. But Matt Judon, the star edge rusher of the Patriots, does not like mac and cheese.
This isn't new.
And Mac Jones does not like pie, be it apple, pecan, or pumpkin. This hurts my soul a little bit, considering I just got a Mac Jones jersey. But you know what? It's fine. It's fine. I'll let them have their opinion, because apple pie is not for everyone. I'm not a big pecan pie fan. Talk about pumpkin pie like that is disrespectful. And Judon, buddy, I love you, but do not talk that way about mac and cheese. That's just wrong.
You just said it was just cheese and noodles.
But it still slaps.
Yeah, he just doesn't like it.
I mean,
Baltimore has known about that for a minute now.
Fine. I find that take blasphemous, but because he's a Patriot, I'll let it slide.
Wait a second. Wait a second. You voted on my poll when I asked how do people feel about apple pie, and you said it's not. You said you gave me thumbs down.
Wait, what? I did?
Yeah. I was like, wait a second.
Okay, I won't cap. I can see how you wouldn't like apple pie, but that was an accident.
So what do you think about apple pie? I think the people need to know.
Okay, honestly, I'm not crazy about it, but I will not turn it down. I do like it. It's not my favorite pie. Personally, I'm a pumpkin pie supremacist, but I do like apple pie. I won't lie, I'm not a pecan pie fan. That's just a me thing, but I like apple, but I love pumpkin. So yes, I accidentally voted no. I'm sorry. I thought I voted yes, but in all fairness, I do like apple pie.
Pumpkin pie is the greatest dessert of all time.
Whoa. Okay, that's discussion for another episode where I'm not ready to do that.
It is. Justin, what's your favorite?
I tell you, but I can't say it on air.
Oh dear.
I can't. It's one of those pies.
Oh, God damn it.
Shut up. No. This is supposed to be a family podcast.
You don't know what pie I'm talking about. So
you have no idea how many swear words I have to cut out in editing all the episodes, because Justin can't keep it professional when he talks about his Ravens. And now we can't even keep it professional talking about pies.
Listen, I kept it professional. You guys kept on insisting I talk about it. I was like,
I didn't say anything.
All right, guys. Adam, you want to close this out?
Yeah, let's close this out before he says something else stupid.
I didn't say anything.
Every other time you talk about our Ravens on the podcast, I have to go and find wherever you put it, wherever you drop an F-bomb or an S-bomb. And do you know how much longer that takes?
Just a few extra minutes.
About like 15, 20 extra minutes, because finding those words are like finding a needle in a haystack.
So that means it only happens every so often. That's it. That's all.
It's all that is enough. All right. Anyways, let's end it. Let's end this. All right. That'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for listening to us. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on Spotify, Spreaker, and Google Podcast. Also, be sure to follow our Instagram at Fumblerooski_podcast to keep up with our podcast and the latest coverage on the NFL. Otherwise, we will see you next week. Have a happy Thanksgiving and over and out.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.